What's up, y'all? My name is Ian Edwards, and welcome to the Soccer Comic Rant. Follow me on Instagram at Ian Edwards Comic, and I got some shows coming up. I'm going to be at the Creek in the Cave next weekend, January 13th and 14th, Friday and Saturday, 2 shows. So I just want to put that out there, because if I don't, I'll forget. And we'll just do the whole show, and I'll never mention it. So that's why I'm doing it now. But thank you for watching or listening to the Soccer Comic Rant. Like and subscribe. And today we're going to talk about Chelsea and their 1-0 loss to Man City. Good news is they did what everybody else hasn't been able to do. They stopped Haaland from scoring, but they still lost. We're going to talk about Frank Lampard. The death watch is on, but should he be fired? Is this all his fault? Like, it's a combination of things. So we'll get to that. We're going to talk about Lee's team, who's right here. Who did you just lose to?
Forest.
Yeah, I mean, both teams, Southampton and Forest, fighting to come off the bottom of the table. This is a 6-point swing game and did not go Southampton's way. So we'll talk about that and Nathan Jones. A lot of managers we're going to talk about. So we're talking about Lampard, we're going to talk about Nathan Jones, we're going to talk about Graham Potter, and we're going to talk about Ten Hag and how good he's doing at United. So we hope that continues. But speaking of managers, let me introduce Lee first. What's up, Lee? How you doing, man?
I'm all good. I literally walked through the door from a charity gig tonight, and then I'm on. We're in it.
I appreciate you making it. You know. So, what was the charity for?
It was basically a show where instead of the audience paying for a ticket, they had to bring donations for a food bank.
Okay.
So that goes obviously into, the sort of underprivileged community, so they can access those things, because times are tough for a lot of people right now. So yeah, it's a good cause.
I feel like there's a lot of ignorance as far as England is concerned. People thoughts on England, because England is a tourist destination in the way that they purport themselves to the world. Like, even for me, like, I forget how hard it is for a lot of people there. But when I see, like, the only thing that reminds me is like what you just said now, and then also just like when you see, like, when I watch a lot of YouTube videos, they see these soccer teams collecting cans and goods, and even some of the fans to like get goods to give to people in need. And then you're like, oh shit, like, but it's weird to like see a country that way when we know it was like a colonial power, and that they got resources from all over the world, and they still do, but there's still people in need in that same country, especially when you look for them like as a top footballing league. The only thing when you're paying attention to just soccer, all you're hearing is like all this money being thrown around and teams being bought for billions. So then you kind of like puts you in builds a wall around like some of the stuff that's going on, like what you just did today. So yeah,
it's getting worse and worse here. I mean, obviously it's a developed nation, but there's still a lot of the problems that exist elsewhere with accumulation of wealth at the top, and not enough going to ordinary working folk in need, who the situation's getting more dire at the moment with energy bills, whole cost of living crisis, everything being more expensive, still like post-COVID kind of economy and stuff. So yeah, Brexit has messed over a lot of people. So all of that fun stuff. It's yeah.
No wonder we just like focus on football, just like entertainment, to like get our minds off like, what a lot of the world is going through. But speaking of football, we got drama in the LBC. And let me spell this drama out for you. So I'm going to give you a timeline, and then you give me your opinion of what's going on. So trying to find this thing in my phone. Where is my gallery? So here it is. Boom. So here's my phone. So here's a timeline of the Gregg Berhalter Reina family feud. So on December 11th, Gregg Berhalter comment leaks off-record leadership conference that the U.S. men's national coach Gregg Berhalter almost sent unnamed player home from the World Cup over disruptive behavior. Now, we all know that he was talking about Gio Reyna because everybody was wondering, why wasn't Gio playing during the World Cup? And so we all know it's Gio. Berhalter said this off the record, came out. Everybody heard about it. So on December 12th, Gio Reyna responds and says, yo, yeah, he was talking about me. I'm the player in question. And I thought that all of this was going to stay in-house. We already dealt with it. All right, fine. Then January 3rd, Gregg Berhalter released a statement admitting to domestic violence incident with now wife from 1991. Gregg Berhalter claims info was shared with the U.S. soccer to take him down. So someone who was around him at that time, who knew him at that time, him and his, before they were married wife, some teammates / friends leaked this incident to the U.S. Soccer Federation. January 3rd, U.S. Soccer announces ongoing announces ongoing investigation into allegation against Gregg Berhalter because they have to. You know, like you have to, if you have a business or corporation or just anything, you have to make sure women's interests are like considered and looked into deeply. Anything dealing with a woman has to be looked into. You have to find out if you're hiring someone who has been abusive to a woman. And then, so just in case anybody was wondering how the U.S. Soccer Federation found out about this incident from 1991, Daniel Reyna, the mother of Gio Reyna, wife of, what's her name? Wife of Claudia Reyna, confirms she shared information about domestic violence incident with U.S. Soccer on December 11th during a call. So she apparently is upset the way her son was treated during the World Cup, not getting playing time, and took it personal and said, hey, I'm gonna get this guy back for what he did to my son. And I'm gonna blow up his spot, I'm gonna pull his card, I'm gonna give the US Soccer Federation some information so that maybe he gets fired because my son wants to play in the next World Cup and I don't know how much he's gonna hold him back in the next World Cup. So it's like, the only way to get my son to play is to get rid of this coach. And one of the ways to get rid of this coach is mention a domestic abuse incident from 1991 to put his character in question. So basically, there's some Game of Thrones, modern day soccer, Game of Thrones going on. What do you think of this crazy situation?
I mean, it's all a bit lacking in class and like, I don't think anyone really comes out of it looking great. Because it's a crazy thing to do. I mean, Gregg Berhalter has been the US national team, men's national team manager since 2018. She knew about this thing in 1991. Right. So at the time, Gregg Berhalter would have been looking at dates like 18, 19 years old. This is like college days. Right. And Daniel Reyna was best friends with Berhalter's wife, and they played on the same team, the same women's team together. Obviously, Gregg Berhalter and Claudia Reyna are good friends. Ernie Stewart,
we're good friends.
We're good friends. Ernie Stewart, who's one of the board of directors at US Soccer, he was teammates with those guys as well. So the whole thing is like people that have known each other for years. And I would just say, like, if you're that concerned about this incident, you would have brought it up way sooner. Like, you can't just hold something in your back pocket like that going, well, I've got this card to play at a time when it's going to cause maximum damage for the people involved. Like, that's not what that's about. Like, it's about right or wrong. If you considered it so wrong, why not bring it up when he was first appointed US manager and going, I don't think someone of this character should be manager of a national team. It all, like, they didn't care enough to bring it up when Gio Reyna was playing for USA, when he was in the team. So it's like, all these things, it's like you have to really call into question the integrity of the person making the accusation. The accusation itself, like the incident itself, may be valid, may be true, is something that you can't defend, but the timing and the method of how they've brought it up and the motives behind it, I think, is massively questionable. And like I say, it makes them not come out of it great either. It just makes them seem snidey, untrustworthy, and just lacking in moral fiber. I can understand the frustrations though, because Berhalter did kind of throw Gio Reyna under the bus by sort of making that sort of stuff public. But then you got to be the bigger people. You can't go down this tit for tat route, taking this like nuclear option of stuff, because also, like, I want to know whether Gio Reyna knew that his mum was going to go do this. Is this an embarrassing parent going for it and sort of torching her son's international career for the next however long? Or is this something where he went, yeah, fuck that guy, he's been a dick to me, go get him, mum? Which is pretty pathetic as well. So yeah, I mean, it's grubby. It makes me feel dirty, this whole situation. It's like, it's turning football into like a soap opera. Like, this is like some Real Housewives shit or something. This is catty. It's it doesn't sit right with me, the whole timing of it and the motivations behind it. It just all seems a bit like, ugh, like, come on, like, people should, especially people like, of this level and stature, should be holding themselves, carrying themselves in a better manner than doing it all like this. It's all very public, and yeah, like I say, nobody comes out of it with any credit. Nobody comes out of this looking any good. It's bad for all people involved. Could have been handled a lot differently and a lot better.
I mean, it's such a crazy story because there's so many layers to it, and everything you said was right. Like, I feel like if she feels, right, that because this guy is there, and I don't know what their relationship was like somebody was saying, another ex-player was saying Berhalter wasn't playing Reyna during the World Cup because the two fathers, the Berhalter and Claudio, have beef, right? Or something like that, And I think Wijnaldum said this or brought this up during the World Cup. So if this mother feels like this guy's in the way of her son playing in another World Cup, she did some mama bear shit and tried to get rid of the problem. And it is you're not supposed to hit a woman, and he definitely made a mistake. But I think his wife has forgiven him. She married him, and they're still married to this day. So if she's cool with it and has gotten past it and they built a life, then I'm fine with it, because she's cool with it, right? Like, she has a right as a person to decide, like, if what happened was just a one-off, or if he just lost his temper, or if he learned from it. So they've all, apparently, it seems like, gotten past it. But, as far as Danielle Reyna is concerned, putting this out in the press and protecting her son, I also know that she's already lost a son. Like, she had a son that died. He was like Gio's older brother. So it kind of probably makes her ultra sensitive towards anything that happens to any of her kids. So I've just never been in that situation before. So, that could also be a part of this. I think he died of cancer around the age of 9 or whatever. And he was like Gio's like best friend and brother. So, these things affect people, but like you said, it doesn't look good for anybody because now Gio's name is soiled. The the Reina name is soiled, which was a great like U.S. soccer name. Gregg Berhalter name is soiled. And then now U.S. soccer, if they don't want to be soiled, they might have to get rid of him because, just because, they're trying to build this thing. And U.S. women's soccer is a big part of just American soccer, period. So, there might be some voices that don't want to let this go. So we'll see what happens. I was watching ESPN, and there's some good potential coaches. Like if Jesse Marsch doesn't make it at Leeds, or even if he does make it at Leeds, which I'm sure he wants to try to survive this thing at Leeds and get them to stay in the Premier League, then he might definitely, he knows the whole international like players and crew and has experience. It might be too early for him to be like the US, coach, but Berhalter's young too. But, so this might be a good thing because he knows all these young players. He knows the whole, so it might be perfect timing as far as that's concerned. But yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess.
I think
it's not
so.
like, yeah.
I think the US men's national team job as well is one that's going to be quite prestigious for the next World Cup as well, obviously, because it's going to be on home soil too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be extra pressure, extra eyes on it. And whatever happens with Jesse Marsch at club level, I think he would be, a great coach for the US men's national team to have for that tournament. Whether or not he gets fired by Leeds anytime soon, whether this is the end of Berhalter, who knows? So there's a lot up in the air there, but they could certainly do worse than Jesse Marsch, and he could certainly do worse than that job because I think it's quite an attractive job for whoever is in it. Because I can't see Berhalter being the manager still by the 2024 World Cup. Not 2024, sorry. 2026.
2026, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of time to go between now and then. Jesse Marsch could probably have another club job in between now and then and still end up US men's national team manager. So who knows? Be interesting to see who they do go for if they do try and replace him. But I think personally that Berhalter was probably done after the tournament anyway. The US they weren't failures. They got probably as far as you'd expect them to get. The performances weren't that inspiring though. The style of play wasn't that inspiring in a lot of the games. I think obviously tactically they played quite well against England, but I think there's probably a little bit more that you could have got out of that group of players overall. But that remains to be seen. And also with the way he's sort of spoken, like I say, like throwing Gio Reyna under the bus and stuff, he's probably lost a bit of trust from the players there with that sort of stuff maybe. So yeah, they probably do need to freshen things up anyway, regardless of this.
Yeah, it's not like he's going to be a tough guy to replace, like, because they have quality players. This is probably the best young crop. They're going to have already have one World Cup of experience, and now this one coming up. They're going to be primed. They're going to be playing at home. Yeah, so whoever gets this job, even if he keeps it, it's going to be good for him. But it's going to be tough to keep this job because the first mistake was opening his mouth at that conference. And I got to give him credit. During the World Cup, he tried to protect Gio and not bring up like whatever his disruptive behavior is, because he would just try to say he was injured. It was Gio that said when he was asked, is he injured? He said no. So that made everybody start questioning, why is he not playing then? And then that continued up until this point. Now it's boiled over into this. We'll see. It's just bananas. Game of Thrones of soccer. Now, do you want to talk about Southampton losing to Forest? Let's see what Southampton is in the table first.
You just look straight to the bottom. That's where we're at.
Man, sorry, man. So Southampton, with their new coach, Nathan Jones, is in 20th place. He got 12 points. Wolves is above you with 14 points. Mm-hmm. Everton is above you with 15 points. West Ham is above you with 15. Bournemouth got 16. Nottingham Forest, who just beat you, has 17. Leeds got 17. Leicester got 17. So those, I'm gonna just go. So you're 5 points from being in 13th place. Were there any games that, and there were games where if players have executed, you could have had those 5 points, right? Either under Hudson or even under Nathan, right?
Yeah, and that's a shared responsibility for the manager and the players, because some of the stuff in some of these games, I mean, first off, I'll go through it in a couple of points. Mm-hmm. Some people saying like we shouldn't have sacked Hasenhüttl. No, we should have sacked Hasenhüttl. In the calendar year 2022, we averaged 0.86 points per game, which is super low. That's a horrific number. And Nathan Jones was only in charge for 3 of those games. So Hasenhüttl's record in 2022 was diabolical. He had his good moments with us. He tailed right off towards the end. The players weren't responding to him anymore. He couldn't motivate them. That was done. That was the end of that chapter. They hired Nathan Jones. I tried to be positive about it at the start because he did a good job at Luton. There were concerns about certain things. So his level of experience at the top level, the spell he had at Stoke where he failed in the Championship and then went back to Luton. So he's only ever really done it at one club. But the stuff he did do at that club, he did very well. So I was like, the board have obviously been thorough in their appointment. They must see something. I'll try and be positive about it. I'll try and get behind the guy. I'll try and see what he's about. The games we've had under him, the 4 Premier League games, Liverpool away, we actually played okay in that game. We lost 3-1, but we gave them a game. We had our highest away from home XG of the season, that one. But, Liverpool at home, when they decide they want to play, they can play. Nunez was good that game. Salah was good that game. It happens. And then we played Lincoln in the cup after the break. We only won 2-1. Kind of an uninspiring game, but we won in the Carabao Cup. Don't really read too much into that. And then the first league game was Brighton. So he's had 6 weeks to work with the players over the World Cup. We go and play Brighton and we get dominated, absolutely dominated. And everyone's like, he had 6 weeks to work with these players. We only had 2 players at the World Cup and they both got eliminated in the group stage. So they came back early. Like, what's he done? And then the next game against Fulham, we improve a little bit, but we can see 2 goals from set pieces, off corners. So that wasn't that great. We missed a big chance in that game as well. And then I went to the Forest game last night and Shea Adams missed a sitter from like 6 yards out early on in the game.
I saw that shot. It wasn't like a sitter.
It wasn't that bad.
It was. No, he's like if he forces the goalkeeper into a great save, fair enough. But a Premier League striker on the corner of the 6-yard box, clean through, has to hit the target from there. Do something. It wasn't even close.
It wasn't even close. Did he have somebody on him and a goalkeeper in front of him?
They were coming from behind him, but he got the shot away without being challenged, and that shot was dreadful.
I've seen better players do that, miss that shot.
No, you got to hit the target from there. If the keeper pulls off a great save, you maybe hold your hands up, but it was bad. It was bad. Yeah, it wasn't good. And then that game, we didn't have a single shot on target against a team who've conceded 22 goals away from home this season. We didn't have a single shot on target. We didn't make Henderson make a single save at home against a team who weren't pressing us.
Damn.
They didn't have a single shot on target apart from the goal they scored. Forest are dog shit as well. Don't get me wrong on that. Like, Forest are going down, in my opinion, as well. They only
you sure they're 17th? No, where are they?
Yeah, they still got 20 games to play, and I don't think they're very good. I saw nothing.
No, they're 15. They're 15.
Their two centre backs, Worrell and Bolly, are two of the worst centre backs I've ever seen, other than the ones we have on our team. Genuinely horrific. Like awful. Like really bad.
You vouched for this coach early in the season. Because
I was trying to be positive.
No, not Nathan, the Forest coach.
Oh, Steve Cooper. Yeah, I rate Cooper.
Yeah, you rate Cooper. So, you're shitting on him now because the more you shit on him, it adds value to how shitty Southampton is. But go ahead.
Sorry, just trying to sort my battery out. Yeah, I mean, Forest weren't great. Like I say, they had the only shot they had on target was the goal, and we gave them that. We were trying to play the ball around the back, and we ended up playing them clean through. And they took the chance well. And their players had fight about them, which was a little bit more than we had. We moved the ball too slowly. Forest sat in like a mid-block, so they didn't drop completely deep, but they didn't press us. They tried to sort of be compact and hard to break down. But sort of halfway up the pitch, and we had no answers to it. We played three at the back, and every defender who had the ball they had no composure. They kept hitting long diagonal balls to players who were never going to get it. They played long balls up to Shea Adams, who, like, he's 5'10", 5'9", and their centre backs are like 6'3". So we had 60% of the possession, but we did nothing. We did absolutely nothing with it.
Forest is hilarious because, you said they didn't press. And, they came into the league trying to press and trying to play attractive football. Yeah. But then they were losing. So recently, Steve Cooper has like, no, we're going to sit back and play low block. So they gave you the ball in this game. They gave a team that's below them in the table the ball and then took their one shot. Like, they were like, we're not going to leave here without at least a point. Like, they're going to be like, So that was their plan, and it worked, and they got a point out of this game because you guys had 63% of the ball. You made 468 passes, which is like when a team doesn't really have a great attack, you can have the ball all day, and Forest knew that, and they're like, we'll be patient, and they were, and they got the goal, and they got one goal, 3 points.
Yeah, I mean, the game by all accounts should have been 0-0. But like I say, we gave them that goal. They didn't trouble our keeper. Other than that, we didn't trouble their keeper. I mean, they had one good chance where they hit the bar early on, but I kind of chalked that off against the Shea Adams chance. They were both equal sort of chances. But like I say, they had fight. They took their chance when it did come, which means they deserved to win the game. But I mean, it was a terrible game of football. Two bad teams. You can see why their away record was the worst in the league before this game,
right?
And why they'd only scored one goal away from home all season before this game. Because, it wasn't good. Right now, if I had to put money on three teams going down, it would be Southampton, Bournemouth, and Forest. Regardless of the fact that.
And what about Everton?
I think they'll get out of it. I think Wolves will get out of it. I think us, Forest, and Bournemouth will be the three that go down unless we do something drastic, or unless one of them can sign some players and turn their form around. I haven't seen it. They're the three teams that I think are the weakest. Like I said, I think Everton, they'll sack Lampard. They'll get someone better. They'll sort themselves out. I don't think they go to step convincingly. But Wolves, I think, have got good enough players to get out of it, and a good enough manager to get out of it. Yeah. Us, I mean, apparently we're still going to sign Orsic. He isn't put off by the diabolical performance last night, so he's coming in. So he'll add some firepower to us, maybe. We're apparently looking at getting Mofi from Lorient as well. So that's two strikers or two forwards who are potentially coming in the door. Whether or not Nathan Jones is the man to coach them, I don't know, because we looked like we had no ideas yesterday. The players on the ball, like our players looked like none of them had played together before, which, like I say, after 6 weeks on the training ground.
Yeah, I guess 6 weeks, yeah. They
I mean, yeah, like that was people had the ball and no one was making any runs. There wasn't anyone trying to support the player on the ball. There was no movement ahead of the ball. It was just bad. It was really, really bad. And just not good.
Well, let me ask you a question. Like, what is the style? What is he trying? What's the style of play that you see that he's trying to do?
He's played four different formations since he came in. He doesn't know whether he wants to play a back four or a back three. He's changed the team around. Stuart Armstrong, who is probably our most creative midfielder and goal scoring threat from midfield, hasn't started a single game under him. He came on last night after 82 minutes. It's just baffling. Like he chops and changes. He doesn't know who the best team is. He doesn't know what formation he wants to play. And I would say, like, that's bad at Premier League level, 4 games into your tenure and having had a whole 6-week break for the World Cup, that you don't know who the best players are and how you want to play. Like we just look bad in these games. Like we don't have an identity right now. We don't have a style of play that's clear or defined. The players don't seem to know their roles. The players don't seem to have any sort of cohesiveness. And there's some good players on an individual level in our team. So really that points to me that the coaching's not good enough. They're not being motivated perhaps like they should be. We haven't got time. That's the big problem for me. Like,
how many games you got left? 20?
Yeah, but it's only getting worse. I mean, the atmosphere is toxic right now, and I've not seen a single thing from him that suggests that he's capable of turning this round. Like, I've not seen any evidence at all. Like, we should be getting stronger every game that if he's a good coach, we should be getting stronger with every game, because the players should be learning a system. The players should be learning the style of play that he wants from them. But we've looked more lost. Like, the Forest game was the worst one of the bunch. And that shouldn't be the case.
And you guys are particularly disappointed because that's the game of all the games that you thought you could win and start turning things around. Because when things are going bad, there's always a game on the schedule that fans can point to and be like, all right, this could be the turnaround game. And when you get to the turnaround game and lose to a team that you think you could beat, then that makes everything even worse. All right.
I mean, our next league game's Everton.
And you're in a cup? Are you going to play? You're in the FA Cup?
We're in the FA Cup against Palace on Saturday, and then we're playing against Man City in the Carabao Cup on the 11th. So we've got 2 cup games before we play Everton. So he might get given those just to see if there can be a glimmer of hope that he's the man to take us into the Everton game and then the rest of the season. We'll see if the new signings, I don't know if the new signings will be made in time enough to play in those games, but it's shit or bust, because...
So you got Crystal Palace in the cup, and then who's next?
Man City in the Carabao Cup. So FA Cup, then Carabao Cup, then Premier League, then Everton. And
when you play Everton, like Frank Lampard pretty much has to win that game to keep his job.
He might be gone before then.
Is Everton still in both cups, or are they in one?
I don't think they care. The same way I don't really care about these 2 cup games. The only thing I care about from them is good performances and getting the confidence up. I don't care if we could go out those cups, and I don't give a shit. It's all about the league now.
I know Everton's in the FA Cup. I just don't know if they're still in the Carabao Cup. Because
no, I think they got trashed by Bournemouth in an earlier round. They got beaten like 4-1 by Bournemouth.
In the FA Cup?
In the Carabao Cup. They're still in the FA Cup. The FA Cup, I don't think Premier League teams have played yet. Oh, no, there's one. This might be the first game for Premier League teams.
So now I was just thinking, like, if Everton plays, because people are saying, like, Frank could get fired after the FA Cup game, right?
Frank should have been fired the minute the Brighton game had full time. He should have been pack your bags, say your goodbyes, get out.
But there's complications at Everton. Like, we were going to talk about Everton. I don't know if we should go to Frank Lampard next, because we're talking about all managers in trouble, right? So Neil's here, And Chelsea just played Man City. And hey, it was at home, but they only lost 1-0 to the team that's second in the league. And you have 10 injuries. Listen, so let me just lay this out. Neil, I'm gonna try to see if I can bring you into this rationally. Not that you might need to be brought into this rational. You might be rational already. So last year, team gets sold. By a new group buys it. Then, and because of the reason it got sold is crazy. Like the owner was an oligarch and a part of close friends with the prime minister / president of Russia. So then everything was seized. Team gets sold. Todd Bowley, an American consortium, buys it, and then they pay for it. So that's good. The deal to buy it, and there was money left also to like fix up the team and structure it, like and build new grounds, and just this Abramovich ended like his reign of Chelsea really good. He left a Champions League coach and a World Club Cup winner coach in place, and then Bowley comes, probably puts too much on Tuchel. Tuchel probably reacts to that badly, then gets fired. But at the same time, before you guys need a forward, somebody who could score. And so there's like a domino effect of mistakes. So you got Lukaku back, right? And he does that. And he was there when Tuchel was there. He gives the speech about Inter Milan. Tuchel probably overreacts. Then they send Lukaku packing back to Inter Milan. And when he was there, he wasn't exactly like hitting on all cylinders. But probably by now, if he had stayed, if Tuchel didn't overreact, you'd be good on the forward front. And then even before Tuchel got there, none of your forwards under Frank Lampard, some of the same ones you got there now, were like consistent. So then Tuchel inherits that, which is why you brought in Lukaku. Then they get rid of Lukaku. Then one of the forwards leaves and goes back to where he came from, Germany, Werner. So then you have like there's like normally when a team is going to succeed, you could count to all the little steps that lead to their success. When a team is going to fail, like I'm going through the list of things that is helping Chelsea fail right now. So you have that. And then all this time between Frank's reign and Tuchel's reign and now Potter's reign, you have a list of injuries. Now you have 10 injuries. And then you're buying younger players who are not like experienced. You also last year lost 2 key defenders. You bought a defender for 70. He gets injured. Then you have 2 old ass defenders, Thiago Silva, who's class, but he's old. And you finally get Koulibaly, who's not doing great. And you got Cucurella. He's having a terrible, it's not great. It's not great. Like I've seen him play better for Brighton Hove, who's above you in the table. And so then you hire Graham Potter, who's new at this level. He's been in the Premier League, but he's new at this level. But now he's got to deal with all these injuries. And all these players have more credits than him. I don't know if they have he has their full respect. I can't say they don't, but these injuries and everything that I've named, plus some things that I've left out, have led to Chelsea being in what place are you in the table?
You're 10th.
10th. So I feel like any fan of Chelsea that wants Potter out of there, you can't ignore the laundry list of steps that have led to this 10th place. You can be like, let's fire Potter. He's not experienced enough for this level. But the breadcrumbs led him to 10th. Like even if he was killing it, he probably would be at the most 6th. And that still wouldn't be good enough.
I think that's the question. Like, I think everybody agrees that we shouldn't really be in the top four this season, but should we really be 10th? And should we really be a team which is, as I said in the last podcast, like even 10th is a little bit of, we got lucky in a few games. We should really, if everything was fair, we should really be 13th or 14th, because that's the level of performance this team is putting out. Today, I think, was a little bit of an exception, which is why I'm not that mad. But generally, I think the level of performance we've seen under Potter is we are a lower half team, which I agree. I get it, all the injuries, but I still don't think it means that we should be a 10th place team, like a bottom half team. But I just to close the loop on some of the things you said. We also like the Tuchel firing thing is really coming back to bite them in the ass right now, the owners, because everything else that you're talking about, like injuries, nobody can control, right? Like the Putin started a war, nobody can control that, right? Like the reaction, the anti-Russian oligarch reaction in UK, nobody. Sorry, I think I got muted at some point.
Yeah, you muted yourself.
So, so there's like a bunch of stuff you couldn't control, right? The injuries, the war in Russia, the fact that, well, Christensen, Rudiger, you could control that, but at least that's the previous administration, right? Like there's nobody to blame right now. The one thing that you could control, the one thing you didn't need to worry about is you got handed over a world-class manager. You went out of your way to fire that guy over a bunch of backroom, logistical compatibility things that, people don't have. You're not supposed to divorce over, like, you go see a counselor, have somebody come in between, have somebody talk to each other. You shouldn't really be having a breakup over this, right? And the whole, I mean, I think the Lukaku thing, I don't think it's fair to blame Tuchel for that, because Tuchel on record, and even Lukaku has alluded to that, Tuchel was ready to work with him this season. And even last season, if you recall, like once the interview thing happened, he did get a rap on the knuckles, but that was only for one match. He got that one, we're playing Liverpool, and interview was coming out literally like less than 12 hours before that. So he was taken out of the game for that game. But then the next 10 games, he started every single one of those next 10 games.
Okay.
And then the actual benching came because he was just not performing. So when Havertz got his chance, he performed.
When Havertz what?
Havertz got his chance, he performed in a couple of games, and that kind of extended his Lukaku being benched. But he did get chances later on with the Club World Cup, and then the back end of the Premier League season.
So then why did he get sent away?
He didn't get sent away. He didn't want to give another go at this. There was so much bitterness with the whole Inter Milan thing. The fans kind of, didn't like the way he was. And he just wanted to leave a negative situation. He felt, Inter Milan's going to take him back with open arms. And he literally asked for the move. Like, he literally worked hard to get that move. And the new owners, were like, well, okay, yeah, we'll cut you loose. They didn't really, I think if this was a previous administration, I think Marina and Peter Cech, they wanted to make it work too. But the new administration was like, all right, you don't want to be here, we don't want to keep you either. So,
but my point is, another Chelsea, like there's whoever's fault it was, this is not good. It's another bad breadcrumb that leads to Yeah.
And today I think we played decently. Like, this is one of our the tragedy is 2 of our best performances in the last 2 months or so have both been against Man City, but both have led to losses.
Right.
So we've got nothing out of them.
And then just the craziness of Reece James returning a few weeks ago, or last week or 2 weeks ago. You guys won that game, even though he got injured and got carted off. And then today, Sterling coming out the game 4 minutes in, injured. And then who else got injured today for you? Pulisic?
Pulisic got injured. And Mount got injured just before the game.
Oh, snap. So it's just, yeah, man. Like, so.
And Fofana, he came back from an injury in that the friendly game they were playing before the World Cup, while the World Cup was ending. And he got again injured during that. So he's gone for another month or so.
Yeah.
So
like, did you go online after the game today, and what's the Chelsea fan base saying? Because if they put some pressure on, this guy could be gone, but are they taking everything into consideration? And what do you think?
I think the sentiment at halftime was that, hey, we're actually playing well, so we can play like this, right? So why don't we play like this more often? Like, so there was a lot of positivity at halftime, the way we were playing. You have to remember, like, we were pretty solid, and it's not easy being solid against this Man City team. We kind of completely cut Haaland out of the game almost entirely. He had, I think, one opportunity which he missed, but other than that, he didn't really get a lot of joy today. And I think Silva and Koulibaly were really good. The biggest positive for today was Silva, Koulibaly, and then Zakaria. Because, I've been saying DM for how many years now? And I think a lot of Chelsea fans, we've been missing that DM type since, Matic left, and then Kante's injury worries. I think Zakaria is probably the real deal. So that's a really positive thing from today. But again, like, the cutting edge in that final third, we just lack quality. I mean, we didn't have, Pulisic, Sterling, they went up pretty early. And then, Mount's not there. Aubameyang was poor today. He was so poor today.
He didn't press or present himself in any way as if he wanted to be there. And then Ziyech should just play with a Morocco jersey under his Chelsea jersey to like give him those Superman World Cup powers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I thought Chukwuemeka showed some promise. He's not obviously. You can see he's not quite there yet. He needs more experience, but he showed that he wasn't like overawed by the occasion and coming into a game like that against world-class opposition. He held his own. I thought he was just. You could see that he's still quite green. But there's definitely something there. You can definitely tell why you bought him, and I think he's going to be a really good player.
Yeah, he played better than Aubameyang.
Yeah, I think all the subs except for Hudson, probably he looked a little, like, what am I doing here? He was kind of the one. Yeah, exactly. So Hutchinson probably was a little like that, but I think Chukwuemeka, Lewis Hall, and Gallagher, even though he just brought in a whole lot of energy, because I think after we conceded that goal, there was a period where we just didn't know what to do. And then Gallagher pretty much out of nothing started, picking fights. He started, pushing people around and going into tackles, pressing from the front, which we were not doing under, when Aubameyang was there. So I thought, like, those couple of guys, they were really good when they came on.
Here's the problem with those subs, or it might be a problem. The fact that you're
having to make
them. And what statement was he making? And will that statement that he made, like, make players, like, play for him more, or will that distance them?
Oh, no. There's no statement. It's not like they were being given a chance ahead of anybody else. There's nobody else. That was the bench. That was the best players we had. The people below them are essentially under 18 kids. So that was a bench there. Lewis Hall, Carnage, Chukwuemeka, Omari Hutchinson, Bashir Humphreys, the centre back, Bentinelli, who is our third choice goalkeeper, Chalobah, who's he's got a lot of experience now, and Jorginho and Aubameyang. So it was not that we had some forward that we could throw in, like, senior forwards. So all our forwards, like Broja is injured, Mount is injured, Pulisic, Sterling injured. So it's essentially among the fit players, it's Aubameyang and Havertz.
This is a perfect shitstorm.
Yeah. But so I guess the question is does it still justify being 10th on the day and playing worse than 10th? I think if we play the way we played today, we should be getting 3 points versus teams that are not called Man City. But we don't even do that like consistently.
I just want to know, are the fans going to want this guy fired based on
I think
what's the temperature?
Of fans want him fired because it's not just this game. I think performance-wise, a lot of fans are okay about today. Mm-hmm. But just overall, the fact that we have 1 win in 10 league games, I think.
I love
that
it.
Is crazy. Lampard got sacked for 3 wins in 10 games. So just to put that, and that was really bad. Just to put that in perspective, this is 1 win in 10 league games. I think I might. Yeah, I don't want to get this wrong. I don't want to make it sound.
You don't have to fight on Twitter.
No, I think nobody's. Yeah. Okay. So we had two. Okay. So. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 8. Yeah, so 2 wins in 8. Sorry. Oh well, actually, you know what? If I just put it to Premier League, let's see how it is for just Premier League because I think that had a few Champions League wins. Yeah. Yeah, 1 win in 8.
1 win in 8.
Yeah. That is bad. I'm pretty sure we're worse than Southampton, Lee, in terms of the last 8 games.
I mean, we've lost our last 6 games in a row in the Premier League.
Damn.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, we're bad. We are bad.
Let me see if since the 16th of October, who's leading the table. I just want to do this quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, there's like 6 teams right at the bottom on 1 win each, and we are one of them. So we're alongside Everton.
One win out of how many?
Last 8. So yeah.
And who are those 6 teams?
Chelsea, Everton, Wolves, West Ham, Southampton, Bournemouth.
All right.
So as you can see, we are on 6 points, and the teams below us are like 5 points, 4 points, 3 points. So yeah.
And what about the teams in that same period of time with like the most wins? Who are they?
That's Newcastle with 6 wins and 8. They're right on top. United, actually Newcastle and Manchester United together on top.
6 and 8.
6 and 8, yeah.
All right.
So
that's pretty good.
That's ahead of Arsenal, ahead of Man City. Well, they played 1 game less, so they're 5 and 7.
Right.
But yeah, we're down in the dumps. Like we literally, I mean, it's no joke. We're just above
Chelsea.
We're just above relegation in terms of form. And usually form is that people look at last 5 games, right? This is a period of 8 games. So it's even worse.
Yeah. You just have to have the right type of things to start happening. That includes off the pitch and on the pitch. You know, it's like no more injuries, buy the right people. You need team chemistry. You need Potter to get more confidence. You need Bowley and them to run this thing better than they're running it. Like everything is affecting everything. It's like you have a knee injury, but it's not because of your knee. It's because you don't take care of your ankles, your calves, and your hip flexors. And it's just breaking down your knee. And your knee is what happens on the pitch. And if you can't use your knees, you can't play. So y'all gotta like work on your legs because this thing's falling apart.
Yeah, we have. I think weekend we have Man City again in the FA Cup. So yeah.
That's Saturday or Sunday?
It should be Sunday. Yeah, Sunday.
Sunday. Let's go to Everton real quick.
Yeah.
You talk about teams out of form. So I could list, you know, at the beginning of the season, I thought Everton was going to go down, but I don't think, and even an Everton fan, I was listening to him on Talk Sports, he wasn't blaming Frank for that loss, you know, against Brighton Hove. I think it was 4-0 and
4-1
and 4-1 in the end, yeah.
Yeah.
So he wasn't even blaming Frank. There were no chance of like Frank out at the game. Like they're mad at the board, you know? And that's like so you can't sell your player who was at the World Cup on one of the best teams, sell him to another team, and then replace him with Mopai. And you didn't even get Mopai paid right away. You got him like later on in the season, or maybe he was there. You know, like Mopai wasn't setting the world on fire anywhere, you know? And then they brought in a bunch of midfielders, and their midfield is solid, but they almost brought in too many midfielders. And why didn't they use some of that midfield money on trying to get like hold off on what, because they even got a midfielder from us, you know, what's his name, who played on Forest last year,
Garner.
So it's like, how about you take the Garner money, take the Mopai money, and get some money on top of that, because they have financial fair play. Like, you know, they can't like spend a lot of money because of all the money they spent in the past and because of the pandemic. So it's like, why don't you like use the funds from maybe too many midfielders, use the funds from two of the midfielders and Mopai, and just try to get a better replacement for Richarlison, which they didn't do. And now they're struggling. And like Frank Lampard is over there. Their defense is like a patchwork defense. Their midfield is probably their strongest thing. And then their forward line is inconsistent. They got injuries with what's his name? What's the handsome forward that they got? Who's always
Anthony
Calvert-Lewin.
Calvert-Lewin, yeah. So it's like, I don't blame this all on Frank, but is he gonna last?
I mean, I think the board have got a lot to answer for there. That's without doubt. But at the same time, I don't think he's good enough either. And the board will probably use him as a scapegoat to take the heat off them and get someone else in. I think he's out of his depth. Like, he's shown little flashes where it's like, oh, okay, might be learning, but it's such a hard thing to do, is learn on the job while your team's in a relegation battle. Like, it's difficult. And you know, they've spent money. They spent 15.5 million on Ghana. They spent, like you say, 20 million on Dwight McNeil, 33 million on Onana, 15 million on Neil Bope. Like, he's had money to spend. And just looking at points per game for the last crop of Everton managers, so in chronological order, Martinez 1.56, Koeman 1.48, Allardyce 1.42, Marco Silva 1.38, Ancelotti 1.6, and then Benitez drops down to 1.14, and Lampard 1.07. So yeah, I mean, out of all the recent people that have had a go at the Everton job, he's by far the worst.
But he's had the worst squad.
Has he though? He just listed a bunch of money he's spent. Like, like Richarlison went, but they spent that money on numerous players, and like you say, it's up to them to get quality. Like, they're not scraping around. They shouldn't be where they are with that squad, and they should be able to do more than they're doing. And yeah, I mean, they're down there. They're in it, and I think they'll have just about enough to stay up. They should do, but I mean, they could quite easily go down if they don't sort it out. But I just think Lampard's out of his depth. I don't think he's sort of worthy of that level of job. I don't think he was worthy of the jobs he's had, to be honest. People say that he maybe came in and turned them around last season. He joined them when they were 16th, 4 places off relegation. 4 points off relegation. They finished 16th, 4 points off relegation. So he just stood still. And this year he's lower than that. So they've regressed. There's not really much of a case that I can see for keeping him there. The board have got to carry their share of this as well, because, like you say, they've mismanaged the club as well on a number of levels. But I think bad board and a bad manager is not a good combination.
Yeah, but my advice to any guy that wants to manage, never join a bad board, because a bad board has made bad decisions before you got there, which is why they fired the manager before you as a scapegoat. So then now they hired you, and they're not going to all of a sudden be a good board. They're going to be the same bad board. And hiring Frank Lampard was probably, like, even for Lampard, it was probably not he shouldn't have taken a job, and they shouldn't have offered it to him. Like, them offering the job to Frank proves even more that they're a bad board. It's like they went for this name that probably didn't have as much experience as he needed for this team in this situation that they're in. So there's another bad board move, and they'll probably make another bad board move and fire him, and just to cover their own asses. Like, it's been a bad board for a minute, and they hire coaches like they buy players. Like, if there's a player that's played on a better team than Everton up the table, but that player was not getting consistent play at that team, but just because the player played for that team, Everton will buy you and think, oh, he's going to come to our team and be a starter and light it up. Like, he wasn't lighting it up in the team he was on before. It's just that you bought him because of his name. And the same thing with Lampard. Like, look at Lampard's name. He played at Chelsea and he coached at Chelsea. So that's above us. So let's hire a coach that we feel is above us. But it's the same situation when you do with these players. Like, he's not an elite coach, So it's like.
But Everton's also not an elite team. It's not like they can attract. They somehow managed to attract Ancelotti, who was an elite coach. And then Ancelotti dropped them like a hot potato the moment he got something. So it isn't like they had a task last season, right, to somehow not get relegated, and the choice that they made, he did carry out the task. So I think, but blaming the board, unless there's somehow any reporting that all the transfer tackles that happen, I think Lampard's got to carry the back for that. Like, he had I think Lampard's got to take the blame for any transfers that are not happening, that are not working out, any players that he's gotten in, because those were his players, right? Like, he wanted Conor Cody, he wanted what's that?
I think
Tarkowski.
I think he's like, when you look in the fridge and there's nothing in there, like, you'd want steak, but all that's in there is some leftover Chinese. So put it with the pizza. He's making a team out of, like, what can we afford?
But that's what I'm saying. Like, the job that he did last season, I think he did exactly what was asked of him. And I think this season, I think it would have been really optimistic for for Everton fan to think that they're never going to fiddle around with relegation again, because the teams that just escaped relegation, the bottom 3 teams who just who got relegated, they're gone, right? So then the new guys come in, and they obviously have a lot of more impetus to stay on in the league, and we've seen that happen in the last couple of years. So if you just escape relegation, there's a good chance you're going to be playing around with relegation again the next season.
Right. Especially if you sell your best forward. Yeah,
and your second best forward is injured. He started the entire season. He was injured for the longest time. So I think they're where they should be. And I think it's the same kind of road that they were on last season.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like your board is going to probably fire Frank, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
And it's not really his fault. But like, you're almost agreeing with me.
I mean,
because I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah. I don't think it's a super fault of his, because he's shown that he can do it once. I think they should just stick to him and give him till the end of the season, because unless you can actually get a relegation like a Sam Allardyce kind of guy, like a specialist.
Lee wants him out of there.
No, like unless you can get a specialist, what's the whole point? Like the new guy's gonna have the same kind of job to do.
If they stick with Lampard, I think they're getting relegated if they keep him. And for a lot of the clubs that are underperforming, like I include us in that, I include Wolves in that, I include Everton in that, I include West Ham in that this season as well. You got to look at stuff like Fulham came up. They've got a squad of mainly championship players, other than 2 or 3 that I think are real quality, but they play as a team, they have an identity, and they're high in the league now. Like Brighton, they've recruited really smartly. Those players didn't cost lots and lots and lots of money on that Brighton team, but they've got an identity. They recruit smart. They had one good coach. They replaced him with another good coach. They're top half of the table. Brentford, they have an identity. They have smart recruitment. They're top half of the table. You don't need to be spending loads and loads of money.
So it's the Everton board then?
No, yeah, but potentially, it's a clown board and a clown manager at that club.
But I think those behind the scenes things take a lot of time, right, to figure out, because it's not like Brighton became Brighton overnight.
Right, but they stuck to what they planned. They made a plan and they stuck to it. Everton's plan has been bad and they've stuck to it, and they didn't know how to change it or get out of it, and they keep doing the same thing, hiring players, buying players that were on teams above them that were on the fringe of the roster, and then hiring coaches like just names, but like no coach has really done good at Everton. That's the real proof. Like Ancelotti did not do that great at Everton. Koeman didn't do that great. Benitez didn't do that great. These are all good, like, name brand coaches. So how is Lampard? And the only thing that's consistent is the board. And the only people that keep staying there and doing the hiring and firing and the buying is the board.
I will say this though, like Lampard with this Everton squad should not be relegated. He should not be getting relegated. But having said that, I do feel like it's completely reasonable for him to, like, be in a relegation battle at some point. But he should still have enough to not get relegated.
I don't know. That team, they got no... You know what you mentioned about Fulham, Lee? Like, Fulham has been a yo-yo team. They've gone up or down. But one thing they kept consistently was Mitrovic. And, like Fulham has something Chelsea doesn't even have. Like a forward.
Striker?
Like a striker, like a 9. Somebody that can
Willian?
the ball.
There are a few Chelsea fans
and Willian is balling.
We need to get Willian back.
He is balling, bro. Like you don't want to watch a Fulham game, Neil, because you'll cry when you see what he's doing on that pitch. You'll be like, how is that the same guy?
Guess who we play next?
Fulham. He's got something for you. Yeah, they got their shit together. Like,
it's funny, Lee, remember this Mudryk guy who Arsenal are trying to get? So apparently we are trying to get now.
Yeah, trying to hijack him.
We're trying to hijack that. So his agent was at Stamford Bridge today at the game. And there's a picture of, I think, Mudryk's agent, Willian's agent, and Willian having dinner someplace. And Willian obviously has played for both Arsenal and Chelsea. So, yeah. It'd be interesting if you're using Willian services to tap people up from beyond the grave.
I got one more Chelsea.
I was going to say, from what I've heard about Mudryk, though, his heart is set on Arsenal.
Yeah.
Like he's an Arsenal fan.
He's an Arsenal fan.
I think, yeah, I mean, he'll probably do what he can to make
and
that
obviously
one happen,
it'd be foolish
but...
for somebody to like look at Chelsea and Arsenal right now and join Chelsea. Like if you're getting the same kind of deal from both teams, unless there's some significant difference in pay packets and stuff.
Yeah.
And what do you think about this? One more question for Neil. Like the Enzo Fernandez deal fell apart. So what do you feel about that? Like Benfica's mad at you guys. They thought you were going to pay the release clause fee. And you guys said, no, how about 85 mil, which is still more than I think he's worth. And Benfica is now pretending that they never wanted to sell him. We didn't want to sell him. And they're like, you're playing with our player's head. So,
this reminds me, like when I was little, my mom used to go to these clothing stores, and they would have a price listed on there, and she would lowball. And when you lowball, you sometimes run the risk of offending the guy who's selling something, right? But it would work magically. Like I would be embarrassed beyond my, I'd be so embarrassed. Like, why are you doing this? Why do you have to do this? But it would actually work. Sometimes, she'd save some cash for the family. And so I think that's what these guys are trying to do. We tried to do something similar with Conde, not this summer, the previous summer. And Sevilla was like, no, it's got to be the release clause. It seems to be the same case here where Benfica are like, no, it has to be the release clause. We are trying to pay 85 million euros, whereas his release clause is 120 million euros, which never made any sense to me. Like, why would you want to play 120 million euros for somebody like Enzo Fernandez?
Right.
85 million, I think, seems fair in considering the fact that, he's young, he's probably got a, room to grow, he's got a high ceiling, just won the Young Player of the World Cup trophy. But obviously, if he's tied into a long contract at Benfica, they have no incentive to sell right now. They know if you had to just get 85 million, you can get that anytime, right? So, I think it's a game of chicken right now. I think his head has been turned. Unlike the whole Mudryk thing, I think in this case, Enzo is actually set on joining Chelsea. But Benfica hold the keys, right? Like they can determine the destiny of this transaction. So, I mean, it looks like they're not happy, right? So, I'd be very surprised if we get him without paying the release clause. I'm not that bothered about this because even though I feel midfield is a big issue, I think we have players like Chukwuemeka, we have players like the guy we just bought from Brazil, Andre Santos. We have Cesare Casade, who we got from, I think was it AC Milan or Inter Milan? Anyway, we got him and he's doing really well. And they all play in that same kind of pitch. We obviously have Mount and Gallagher. So, I'm not absolutely, that's it's either way. If we get him, great. I think he's a great talent, and hopefully he lives up to his transfer fee. But if you don't get him I'm not that bothered.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't be bothered either. Like, I wasn't even bothered that we didn't get Cody Gakpo. So I guess the last thing I want to talk about is United. Who did we play? Bournemouth. And we beat them. Wolves. No, Bournemouth. We played
Wolves was the game before.
Yeah. I kind of want to bring up Wolves anyway. Lopetegui, Wolves played Aston Villa, right? So Lopetegui versus Unai Emery. The two guys came from the Spanish league and they both coached Sevilla at one point and both won Europa League with Sevilla. Or is it Villa?
Yeah.
Yeah. But Lopetegui was at Villarreal last, or was it Sevilla?
No, Emery was at Villarreal last. Lopetegui was at Sevilla. He didn't win the Europa League, I don't think. Emery did. He won it with Villarreal and with Sevilla.
No, Lopetegui won a Europa League. He won it against Man United.
No, that was Villarreal, Emery.
Lopetegui won it though recently after he got fired from Real Madrid. I think it was against us. Like they both won it, and they both run it in La Liga. Because when Lopetegui won it, it was like,
oh yeah, he won the 2020 Europa League.
Who was it against? Was it
with Sevilla?
with
Was that
Sevilla,
the one against
yeah.
Liverpool?
No, I think it might have been against. Was that against us? I think it was against United.
No, because that was Villarreal beat you guys on penalties.
Oh, okay. Unai Emery won the one against Liverpool. He's won it a bunch of times.
Let's have a look. Oh, they defeated Inter Milan 3-2.
Okay. All right. But
both
so
Europa League winners.
Yeah, they're both Europa League winners. They're both in the Premier League now, and it's the first time that they faced each other in the Premier League. One is a Villa coach, one is a Wolves coach, so they tied 1-1. Just a notable thing just keep to monitor these guys' situation in the Premier League. And then just go back to United. We beat Bournemouth. Rashford scored again. Casemiro, Steady Eddie is killing it. Graham Souness, when we first bought Casemiro, it's like, hey, they overpaid, for I played that position. He's a Steady Eddie. But this Steady Eddie has been turning in some phenomenal performances. Like Graham Souness believes that someone who won 5 Champions Leagues was...
Isn't that what you need at that position?
I mean,
like literally a Steady Eddie?
Yeah, I like the nickname now. Steady Eddie world class. A world class Steady Eddie player. Like, I'll take it. He's scoring goals, he's getting assists, and he's shutting down teams. Like I said it in the last podcast, like, we're just harder to beat. Like, not even harder to beat, we're just tough to score on. Like, that record that you just mentioned, a part of it is because we're just tough to score. Like, we're having trouble with some of the forwards. Like, Martial is not pressing. He didn't press again today. He didn't press against Wolves, and he didn't press against Bournemouth. So, they need to talk to him like, hey, man, speed up and put some pressure on people. Like, watch Fulham play and look at Mitrovic and see what he's doing. You're going to get some goals if you do that. You have more skill than a Mitrovic, but where's your desire? And it's so crazy how life is. Like, somebody might have more skill than you, but if you have more desire than them, then you'll get more out of your less skill than they will out of theirs. So, and then we're going to get, Sancho's had some issues. He went for special training for a few weeks in Haaland, so now he's back. We'll see if he's going to be ready to be integrated with the team. I don't know what happened to Anthony last game, but he didn't play. We played...
he's injured, I think.
He's injured. So we played Bruno Fernandes in his position on the right, and which gave Donny van de Beek a chance to take up the 10 spot. And then Donny got injured, like, seriously. Like, the pitches don't look good. So he cried walking off the field. So hopefully Donny will be all right. But he's been playing more aggressive because that's what he needed to do. He was playing at this jogging pace, the same jogging pace that it's almost like they think you don't even train at that pace. So I don't even know how they're playing in an actual game at that pace. But Donny finally, in the last 2 games, seen some minutes, stepped up his pace, and sorely got injured. So hopefully he's back, because this is going to be tough on his United career, because the injury looked like he's going to be out for a while, but hopefully he'll be back. So United, with their Steady Eddie kind of doing their thing at a Steady Eddie rate. We have Everton coming up. De Gea also has been pulling off some masterful saves. Like, he made some great saves against Bournemouth. And, there was a game that Liverpool played against, who was it, against Villa, where we were saying that Villa could have won that game because they had some chances and they didn't put them away. And you could say the same thing kind of for this game, because Bournemouth did have some chances. But if you say that, you also have to take into context that we started Lindelof and Maguire in center half. And if we'd started Varane and Lisandro Fernandez, those chances wouldn't even have existed at all. So even with those guys starting in central midfield, we still got a clean sheet. I mean, we what do they call it when you don't let any goals in?
Clean sheet.
Clean sheet. All right, so we still won 3-0, and now we got Lissandro. He got some rest. Varane got some rest. We got some FA Cup shit business coming up against Everton. I hope we don't sleep on Everton. Desperate teams fight harder. And it's almost like, at least for one game or two. So let's hope we don't sleep on Everton for the FA Cup. But yeah, we're doing all right. We'll see what happens. I still don't think fourth is guaranteed. We're in fourth. Spurs, unfortunately, went off on Crystal Palace in the second half yesterday. They were, if you base the game on chances created in the first half and possession, Crystal Palace was in a driving seat. They were damn, they was just embarrassing Spurs. They just didn't put the ball in the back of the net. And then Spurs is a second half team only. If they're going to show up in a game, it's going to be in the second half. So you got to be on your P's and Q's. And they switched their whole shit up and attacked and put in 4 past Crystal Palace. And look out for Brian Gill. They say Hill or Gill?
Hill, yeah.
Hill. Yeah, even though it's spelled with a G. He's been on the bench for a minute. They said he's a tricky player and he got some skill. There's been some injuries. And I guess out of desperation, Conte's playing him. And he looked good the last 2 Spurs games that he actually played. And I saw him. So they have a little something, in Brian Hill. And I guess that's all I want to say about.
Can I cover the fantasy league real quick?
Oh, yeah.
I forgot.
You know who should get fired as a coach from the fantasy league? It shouldn't be Graham Potter. It should be. Sorry about that noise. It should be our boy Neil, and probably me. Speaking of Lampard is doing well compared to how Neil is handling his team.
Well, I guess the fact that we have so many injuries, right? I need to I need to make some changes.
Yeah, I haven't done anything with mine, so I can't say anything.
Yeah, Neil is 33 out of 34. Ian's 27 out of 34. I'm 9th. I've closed the gap to Martin, but Martin's still 3rd, so he's the highest out of the 4 of us. But number 1 at the moment is Jairo Dominguez. He hasn't had a great game week this game week, but he's been putting up some numbers prior to that. 88 points in game week 17 was a big one.
That's crazy.
But yeah, he's top of the league at the moment. His team Lions. Joachim Henriksen, who's been top before, he's in 2nd place. And then, Martin's 3rd. So that's the top 3 as it stands. So shout out to Jairo Dominguez, who is currently on top of the pile. Lots of, there's still points to get from this game week because there's a double game for Fulham. I've got Mitrovic and Chelsea, obviously. That's again, it's kind of, I've got Cucurella and Mitrovic, so someone's going to get me some points.
Hilarious.
So who knows? I could creep up maybe a little bit, but Kane did well for me. It's the one time I'm happy to see a Spurs player score. He got me some points, so I feel like it doesn't really matter if Haaland does anything now in a City game or not because everyone has him pretty much. So if he has a bad game, no one gets any points. If he has a good game, everyone gets points. So it kind of makes no difference.
I don't have him, so I guess
you don't.
I would say I would come for y'all at the top, but I don't even know how to operate this thing. I might have to do I might try a reset this weekend and see what happens. See if it actually takes. But my phone and that app and that league is not cooperating with each other. So
you'll have a wild card available to play, so you can do a whole team revamp. Worst case scenario, I'm going to be out there in 6 weeks' time. I'll do it for you.
I bet, please. Hopefully, Neil's team won't have fired him by then. All right, so that's the fantasy league. Anybody got anything else before we bounce? That's it. All right.
No.
Well,
no, just pray for Southampton, please.
Pray for Southampton. It's hilarious. Pray for Southampton, y'all. You should make that an official post on Instagram, you know. Even an NFL player who's getting better that I get injured is praying for Southampton. Like he's like, my incident was bad, but have you heard about Southampton? Jesus Christ, it's not good. All right, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for participating, Neil and Lee. Everybody else, thank you for watching and listening. Please like and subscribe. And Happy New Year, man. How's it been so far? Hope it's been good. One love, and talk to you on Monday or Sunday. 1 second.